It also doesn't hurt that John Wayne turned it into a movie. Moore, a civilian, is credited with giving Special Forces its nickname. Though they had worn a beret unofficially, it wasn't until a visit to Fort Bragg, North Carolina by President John F. Kennedy in 1961 that the Green Beret was made the official headgear of the Army Special Forces. Moore's book made the unit's headgear more than just a hat. It became a household name, a symbol of the Army's most elite soldier. Moore, author of several books and a classmate of JFK, got the first look at the new unit and became the first true embedded journalist by training with and fighting alongside the Green Berets in Vietnam. He recounted stories of Green Berets defending remote outposts, of a lone Green Beret who goes native to fight alongside tribesmen in Laos, and finally how the Green Berets recruited a beautiful Vietnamese woman and used her as bait to capture a Viet Cong colonel. The fact-based novel reads like a thriller and created the Green Berets' reputation. I've had the unique experience of living with and following Green Berets in combat. But I, myself, am not a Green Beret. I am not even a soldier. The closest I've ever come to being in the military was 3 years of naval ROTC at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. But I quit in 1997 with 1 semester left. I just returned from my senior cruise around the Baltic Sea with stops in Northern Ireland, Norway, Russia, and Scotland on a frigate. I loved the port calls, drank way too much beer, and still don't properly recall exactly how I got from the ship to the airport to go home. The times I spent with the officers and crew of the ship are still fond memories. But when I wasn't working, I was asking questions. A couple of times when I wanted to know why something was done a certain way, I was summarily told it was the Navy way, which only left me to ask why again like a petulant 2-year-old. And when I finally went to my rack in officer overflow, really just a hallway with bunks, I dreamed of larger staterooms. It was then that I was convinced I wasn't a warrior. So, after bouncing around a few jobs in Washington, D.C., and starting my career in journalism in Boston as a music writer, free CDs and concert tickets, I got a staff job writing about OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, back in D.C. There I learned how to be a reporter and talked my way on staff at the Fayetteville Observer. Mike Adams, then the assistant managing editor, gave me a shot covering the military. Learning from longtime military editor Henry Cunningham, I studied the units, quickly learned the difference between a platoon and a brigade, and started to learn all the ranks. But it wasn't until one of my colleagues got engaged in Kuwait to an officer she had been covering that I got my chance to cover a war. I spent the next month following the 82nd Airborne Division's 2nd Brigade Combat Team as they worked their way from Kuwait to Baghdad. It was 2003. And after covering the invasion, I focused on getting an embed with Special Forces in Afghanistan. It took me a year, but I got it. And in the fall of 2004, I went to southern Afghanistan to cover a 3rd Special Forces Group ODA. It was during that embed that I got to see the Green Berets in their natural habitat. I followed that up with 3 more embeds and a year-long project on the Special Forces qualification course before getting the chance to come over and write a book. But I am no more a Green Beret than a researcher who spends months with gorillas in the wild is a gorilla. No, the title of Green Beret can only be earned after a rigorous selection process and months of intense training in culture, language, and specialty skills. I think it is hard to argue with the statement that Special Forces are America's most elite soldiers. It is not because they can shoot the straightest, run the fastest, or do the most push-ups. What makes them special are their smarts. They are the smartest soldiers on the battlefield. They can beat you with a handshake after a long negotiation just as easily as with a bullet. More than 40 years since the